Is a mic on? A distant, a one, and a three. Good morning, good morning. How's everyone doing? See your home week. Oh, shit. What did I do? Alright. Let's get into it today, huh? How's everyone doing? How's everyone handling this fantastic weather we're having, huh? Damn. Second day in a row. Sun is shining. The weather is sweet. It's a marvelous day. What a day to be alive, huh? What a day to be alive, boys. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be having a look at what the difference is between the Succesion and Awakening versus the select few classes that have Ascension. And you're like, oh, what the hell is that? Well, to put it to you bluntly, when you go into your character creation screen, whichever character you click on, right, will usually appear. And on the bottom right hand side, there's a little window that gives you somewhat of a preview, right? And this preview shows Main and Awakening. Main will be your Succession class. And this is typically what you're going to start that character as until you reach level 56, I believe, which then grants you the opportunity to go ahead and do the Awakening questline for your class. And essentially that just gives you access to the next specialization that your class has. Their weapons are very different, right? For example, the warrior, you'll start off with your traditional sword and shield, and once you hit the level requirement, which is 56, you'll be given the opportunity to then complete your quest for your class. As I said, the weapons are completely different. Now the warrior drops the shield and that one-handed sword and picks up a two-handed sword and becomes something akin to just a brutal arms warrior, right? He picks up massive, I'd say, attacks versus the smaller attacks, from what it looks like anyway. And that's just one notable difference where warrior's like the easiest, because let's be honest, in most MMOs you'll find the warrior class there, right? Most people can relate to that class, and I don't think a warrior will be excluded from any MMOs to date. Don't be mistaken. It is a very fun class to play because you know what you're getting yourself into, right? It's either you zug with two-handed weapons, or you pick up a traditional sword and shield, or you just go balls to the wall and you're like, nah, screw defense, I'm gonna pick up a two-handed shield, a two-handed weapon, excuse me, and you're just going to go and slay anything and everything that's in front of you, which is pretty cool and very appealing. But yes, warriors are undoubtedly the staple of most MMO RPGs. Come to think of it, I don't know one MMO that doesn't have a warrior in it. But if you guys can find any MMO that has no warrior class for any player to actually play as, let me know in the comments down below. You know, always willing to give that a go and see what is out there as well. Anyway, without further ado, we get into your Succession, which is the starting class or starting spec. And of course we have the Awakening, which is, let's say, your advanced specialization. But then there's another word there, and that's Ascension. Oh my, wait, what's that? Yeah, good question. So there are about 4 or 5 classes within Black Desert Online that has Ascension classes. Your very first one will be your scholar. As we can see when we click on it, there's no main, there's no awakening, and this essentially means that she is an Ascension class. She just has one set of abilities, and sometimes depending on the design, they can either decide to, lean into a certain set of powers or another. But we'll get back to that in a little bit. So with Ascension, typically you don't have to worry about doing any kind of fancy quests at a certain level. What you get is what you see. Right? When you start off with this class, that's what you're going to basically be looking at from the start very well to the end game progression. So the Ascension classes are as follows. There will be Scholar, right? The next one is going to be your good old faithful Archer, right? Now bear in mind they do have like 2 weapons like the rest of every other class in PDO, and you will just decide which weapon you are arguably going to use the most, right? But each Ascension class is, I'd say, a case-by-case basis. Your Archer uses his traditional, okay, I can't zoom out right now, his traditional, longbow for many of his abilities, although you can utilize his other weapons, which is like I want to say a dagger and a crossbow, but 9 times out of 10 you probably going to end up with a longbow. Your other Ascension class will be your Seraph. Oh, apologies, we are going in order, so I guess that Deadeye should be next, unless I skipped someone up there. Maybe, but either way, let's talk about Deadeye. Deadeye, traditional run and gun type of gameplay, right? You have a revolver and what looks like to be a bazooka as your 2 weapons. Not entirely certain of the third one. However, if you like, running and gunning, then maybe the Deadeye is for you. I would highly recommend that everybody that is uncertain about the class, go ahead and make a trial character, and that will give you the opportunity to actually play with said character at level 62, giving you all the bells and whistles, of course not in terms of gear, but at least what your character, what that class is capable of, right? You'll be hitting the dummies, you can hit some abilities, see how they play, and ultimately that is going to give you the best understanding of what that class is basically capable of, but also if you enjoy hitting the buttons, because the number one rule in any MMO, let's be honest, boys and girls, is to have something at your fingertips that you enjoy. There's no point in choosing something that is let's say meta, but you don't enjoy it. Now if enjoying the meta is your enjoyment, then that's a different story. Just to touch on that, that would be something akin to, just having one of every character, and whatever's at the top of the leaderboard, you'll swap to that one and play that one at the point in time. Now bear in mind, that is a lot of work, so I wouldn't strongly suggest to not chase the meta. Once you have a better understanding of the game, then sure. And especially if you are interested in PvP, then things do take a little bit of a different shift. But for this guide's intents and purposes, we're sticking with PvE. Right? The next one would be Seraph, and this is kind of one of the latest Ascension classes that's come into the game. Pretty cool, big ass sword wielding angel-esque character that has a light side and a dark side. Now, this is where, although you play with one toolkit when it comes to Ascension, the setup is a little bit different because you get to choose whether you want to go into your light form or your dark form. If I can compare it to any class, or how would I put it? If I could compare it to any other kind of MMO or character design, if you think about some class that is, I won't say heavily reliant on cooldowns, but cooldowns is almost everything. It takes me back to what Fire Mage back in, I think, EFA. I could be mistaken about the expansion, but there was a point in time where Fire Mage in World of Warcraft was very reliant on its cooldowns, right? Outside of combustion, you just did nothing. And you would only have combustion, I think, like every 2 minutes or something to that effect. So you were a 2-minute class where every 2 minutes, hopefully your tank pool's big enough and you can let loose. Right? This class is something similar. You have decent amount of damage just off the ripper. But when you get into more challenging content, then it really becomes evident as to when to utilize your cooldowns and your buffs, and depending on, of course, the mechanics of this area that you're in. Now, with that being said, it is very cool. I see that the light version, in terms of Seraph, is more DPS orientated, where the dark version is, I would say, more tank orientated, right? Although again, this is an MMO. BDO does not have the traditional Holy Trinity, as we all know and maybe love or hate, for that matter. But yes, you are a little bit tankier in the red form, in my honest opinion, as you get HP back when you're being hit. A lot of defensive abilities, so to speak, right? When you hit a target, you get some damage reduction, you add damage reduction to yourself, you get healed, there's a nice counter mechanic for your charge, etc, etc. It's a lot of fun, especially if you like a big ass sword and you just want to smack some mobs down, right? If we have a look and see, there is one honorable mention that I can briefly touch on. I don't have any experience with this class, but that is the Shy. Although the Shy says main and talent, this is your bard equivalent, your buff bot, your class that is there to support. Whether it can do good in terms of damage or tankiness, and that is yet to be known by me. I have not played this class whatsoever. However, if you are someone that wants to just, play with your friends, have a blast, but not worry too much about giving the optimal damage and just be there for the vibes and the good times, then Shy is probably one of those classes that can work for you, Almost every player in the Black Desert community would love to have themselves a pocket Shy. That's just a fact, right? They produce so much more damage for your class, regardless of the class that you play, because they give you buffs, they give you protection. This class is just insane, and if that's for you, then Shy would be the class that you were after, right? Being that ultimate support. Right. Getting back to, I think, the final Ascension class, which I think is pretty cool, to be honest. I mean, Black Myth Wukong is a fantastic game. I think the sequel's coming out soon, or is here already, who knows. However, we do have our very own Wukong within Black Desert Online. Now, I don't have a lot of experience with this, if any at all. However, it is another Ascension class, meaning that you'll be playing basically with a toolkit straight off the ripper. Right? Nothing much is going to change. You're just going to get a little bit stronger as you go up with levels, and of course gain access to more of your toolkit. He is said to be quite nimble, right? He has a little bit of a nimbus cloud there, a reference to maybe Goku. And Goku's a reference to him. Who knows? Either or. I guess the chicken or the egg type of thing, right? However, all the classes in video are flashing. Very, very fun to watch the animations. And yeah, again, it just comes down to you actually enjoying the class. When it comes to Wukong, it seems like he has huge ass AoE. And yeah, you get to fight with a stick, man. You know, you get to fight with a badass ball. So if you are someone that isn't interested in, you know, playing more than one specialization, then I would strongly suggest looking at the Ascension classes, as they'll offer you one singular kind of gameplay, you know, with the exception of a few. But again, it all comes down to you actually just going in and giving it a go. I believe that is the low, right? So to summarize, our Ascension classes would be Wukong. Oh, right. Yes. Our Ascension classes would be Wukong. We have Scholar. We then also have ourselves, I guess I would throw Shy in there as well, right? Because you're basically going to be doing one type of thing. I could be mistaken again, but I'll throw her in there as well, because you ultimately are playing to be the support. You know, you're not playing to be anything else. Like, I guess there is other opportunities and avenues for you to go down and explore and make it an actual class that you can grind on, possibly. I have no idea, but it is something that has caught my eye. I just wish that the character model wasn't so small, you know. Then we of course have your Archer. If you like not running and gunning, but running and arrow firing, you know. Robin Hood, Green Arrow, Hawkeye, just to name a few. If that's your kind of aesthetic and gameplay, then the Archer will be the a great class for you to play with. When we have Deadeye, run and gun, pretty fun, quite mobile, and of course big explosions. And then last but not least is the Seraph, which has light and dark and big swings, a little bit slower. So if you're not interested in, you know, being super fast in the sense of, oh, I need to constantly be hitting my buttons at a high rate, then this is not too bad, right? There are certain classes that have a sword and a shield. Right? So if you like the tank aesthetic, even though they aren't tanks, you can build your character to be a little bit more tanky. So if we're looking for the sword and shield kind of vibe, of course, Warrior in his main, as they call it, or Succession, will be your, you know, tank and spank. He's literally rocking a shield and a one-handed sword, and you can block, you know. So if that's the aesthetic you're actually going for, Warrior, Succession Warrior can work for you. There is also the Nova as Succession that has a shield, which is pretty cool. She does, I guess, black magic kind of damage. Again, I haven't experienced all of these However, I can just give you the general understanding of what I've picked up so far. The next shield wearer would be your Valkyrie, right? And surprisingly enough, this will be the Valkyrie that is awakened, so to speak. Right? Her main is still a sword and a shield type vibe, but when you go to your awakening, you'll kind of just upgrade it and become a little bit more lethal. So if you're just looking for something that has a sword and a shield, Valkyrie will probably be your best bet, because no matter what you play, whether it be Succession or Awakening, you're going to be rocking a shield on your own, which is pretty cool. Right. Other than that, there is one honorable mention that has a shield as well, but seems to be more the case that people prefer the two-handed weapon, and this is your Guardian, as it implies. Right? This Guardian is going to be wielding a shield and a one-handed axe as your Succession class, and if you decide to go Awakening, similar to Warrior, you then drop your sword and shield and you don a two-handed axe. So think of Guardian almost as a female warrior. No? Are they exactly the same? I wouldn't say so. However, play what you enjoy, play what looks nice, what feels nice, and what looks nice. No? Those would be our shield wearing classes. The Tamer, side note, the Tamer is the only class that has a pet in the class. Lottie, hey, how you doing? I am doing really good. Thank you very much for asking, Lottie. How you doing on this fine day? Hopefully you're doing well and you've had some liquid, coffee, tea, whatever the case may be. I'm just having a good ass time. Our Tamer is the only class that has a pet in the game. So if you enjoy being somewhat of a hunter, then Tamer will be for you. Right? On her Succession, she seems to just dart around. Again, this is more for people that has the love for playing with pets. Right? Tamer is going to be your basically your only pet. There are some honorable mentions in the sense of having a pet, but it wouldn't be the traditional sense. That would be your wizard, in which they do summon somewhat of an elemental to fight around with, but that's about it, right? I think it lasts for, let's say, 30 seconds or something to that effect. Again, I stand corrected in that regard. However, I know that the Tamer is the only class that has a pet. Right. So you want to start off with creating, always create a seasonal character. Right. But before you do that, I would strongly recommend going into any server in the game, hitting the trial button, click create, and for this video we'll have an example. Okay. Side note: Agent is the latest class that got added to the game, which is basically a male Jedi, right? They are brother and sister, lore-wise. They do play a little bit, I'd say a little bit the same, but one relies on, I'd say, technology versus, just the raw gunpowder and stuff like that. Where you actually have something akin to like grenades that you can throw around, where she has, of course, her bazooka. That being said, Agent for now, only has a Succession available. In some time in the future, they'll unlock the Awakening version of this character, and we'll get to experience that. But up until now, you will only have Succession available to you. Right? Can you talk to me in chat? Because my headphones are not working. Oh, that's okay. That's a rough one. So to hear it. Oh. Get comfy here. Oh, I'm replying like you can hear me. That's crazy work. Alright. Give me a second. What is this? Something to this magnet. Yeah. There we go. No. So, for this intent, we'll create a shield with her. A Nova. Oh, first letter must be capitalized. I'll see. Name is available, yeah, great. Alright, so here we go. We create ourselves a young trial character, and you guys, you can see Battle Arena, and we are in at level 62. Bum, bum, ba-da-da. Alright, lovely stuff. Now, this is where you'll enter with every other character that you decide to create, you know. It's on this little island over here, which is pretty cool. Well, when we go to K, which will be our skills, we can actually have a look at them. And okay, side note, if you go down in the skills tab, you can click on this button that says view other classes. Let's just say skill demo, and here you can actually have a look at every class in the game and what the abilities look like. If you don't really want to be creating and deleting a lot of characters, then you can literally go through here and click, let's say I want to see what Doser looks like, you know? Click on the Doser, click on his button, and you can see, oh, that's what the animation looks like. But again, I would strongly urge you to go and have a look at the class while you actually have it at your fingertips, right? Because that's going to give you the best representation of what that class is about, as opposed to just viewing something. if that makes sense. Ba-da-ba-da. So let me just activate this. Save real quick. Oh, we have no weapons. Whoops. Alright, so you want to push I and then just equip your 2 weapons. Alright. When you push tab, you'll equip the weapons or unsheath. You can see what the class actually does when we push our buttons. Right? Now bear in mind, I know as a new player you might not know exactly what the buttons are, and believe me, I don't know what the buttons here are either, but I'm just pushing off what I believe to be, you know, the general buttons. But again, you can go have a look here. It's like LMB, moving directions. It's walls of text, but once you get into the hang of things, you'll understand, okay, most characters have like a shift E, you know? Boom. Or they have a shift Q, right? In this case, she doesn't have anything like that. They just purely block. Maybe she has a shift F. There you go, boom, big damage, right? Maybe she has a SF. You know, some classes have that. Maybe she has a SE. No, she doesn't. Maybe she has a WE. No, she doesn't. Does she have a, let's see, shift X? No, we don't have the shift X because of that's, yeah. Anyway, so you like get the general understanding of what it does, how it plays, and of course this game has been around for more than 10 years now. I would strongly recommend you doing this process. But while you do this process, look up a guide that can give you some sort of, you know, rotation, infinite combo as they call it. And then hit those buttons to see, okay, is this actually fun for me? You know? Because realistically, the buttons you're going to be hitting in a PvP scenario versus the buttons that you might be hitting in a PvE scenario, you know, can either be the same depending on the class, or from what I understand will probably be very different, right? If I am out in the world hitting, let's say for argument's sake, these mobs over here, right? They have stun, stiffness, freezing, so it might require me to be quite nimble. You know, you would have to move around a lot so that you don't get hit in order to not get stunned or frozen, you know, versus something around, let's see, my knowledge, something around here. Here they have knockback and floating, so you might have to move as well. However, I specifically chose this area because it is more of a tower defense type thing, right? There's like a flag in this area and mobs are standing around the flag. You essentially go there, you wipe out the mobs, and as soon as a certain amount of mobs are killed, boom, more mobs will spawn and more mobs will spawn. So you'll hardly be moving from pack to pack, right? You'll just be in this one area, boom, slapping mobs, as opposed to other areas. Let me go back to Blood Wolf Settlement. This isn't a tower spot, right? Here you are literally going to be moving from pack to pack to be able to kill mobs, and then in a certain area, you'll just make a little circle, you know. So if we were to be, let's say for argument's sake, in this area, you know, you'd probably just run around on this road, kill whatever mobs are here, move that way around, and then circle back. Hopefully, by the time you get back to the starting point, you know, the mobs have respawned, and then you just rinse repeat in that circle. So those are like the two kind of grind spots that I'm aware of within Black Desert Online. You know, it's your tower spots where you can just knock mobs down as they spawn, minimal movement, and then there's other spots that literally require you to, you know, move from back to back because they are just standing there. So taking that into consideration, do you want to be someone that plays tower spots where you just stand and let mobs come to you? Or do you want to be someone that, you know, moves from pack to pack? Or do you want to try both? So with that being said, pick a class that you enjoy and can also play the type of content that you enjoy. Alright. I mean, this, she seems really cool, yo. Summoning things, yeah, constantly. And of course, I guess we don't have a weakling. I'm gonna have to go through this box. Oh no, here's the books to get your awakening and yeah, we can click this book. I can't use in current state, okay. Hey yo, can you put the weapon away, let's go. Holy. Right, click on those books and now surely we should be able to go between Succession and Awakening. Right. And yeah, we can see the difference. Very top. Hold up. Main. So these are all the abilities that you'll use on your Succession.